And with that, I will mentally take just 3 seconds to now switch gears and tell you about another company in the Juvenescence portfolio, Morphoceuticals. I'm incredibly honored to be able to work with the scientific founders here, Mike Levin and David Kaplan out of Tufts University. I was just at Mike's lab last week. It is an impressive facility insofar as one of the main hallways, floor to ceiling, is journal covers. So if you're not aware of Mike Levin's work and David Kaplan's, I encourage you to check it out. And really, the best 15 minutes you will spend today, pull up Mike Levin's TED Talk. Do yourself a favor. It is one of the best TED Talks that you will see. 15 minutes. He literally leaves the main gentleman, whose name I now forget, interviewing him speechless in some of what Mike describes coming out of his lab. So this is highly regarded work, featured on the cover of journals like Cell and Nature and Science. Mike's thesis here is that if we think about the software of life and being able to reprogram the software of life, Mike's thesis is that that's not a metaphor. It's not a metaphor of reprogramming. Mike is actually proposing that we can literally reprogram the biology of life. He tells a story that is really quite remarkable, that if you look at the past few decades of remarkable innovation in medicine, he suggests that in many ways we're approaching this from a bottoms-up perspective. That is, when you try to manipulate the cell using gene therapies, genomics, metabolomics, CRISPR, it's the equivalent of computer programming in the 1940s, where literally, like you've seen the pictures, right? Like people unplugging cables and plugging them back in, because that's what it took back in the 40s to reprogram a computer. Mike's proposal is that that's really where we are at medicine today. We are reprogramming from the bottoms up. But if I ask you to take out your phone and to switch from email to Instagram, you don't break out the soldering iron, right? Because that's a highly inefficient way to change the hardware of your phone. You use software. And Mike's proposal is that, in fact, nature also uses software, and it is fundamentally a top-down control. It is a bioelectric control. That the software of life is fundamentally bioelectric. And so what he has shown is that if you understand the bioelectric signaling via ion channel and gap junction modulators of the cells, you can accomplish remarkable things that are simply impossible to engineer from the bottoms up. But if you take a tops-down bioelectric approach, you can. So what you're viewing here is a frog embryo through about 8 hours of development. This is not biochemical signaling. We're using voltage-dependent dyes here in Mike's lab to look at the electrical communication as the cells talk to one another to execute a program to build a frog. And it turns out in Mike's lab, you can manipulate and run subroutines within that program to make what's called a Picasso frog. If it looks like that frog has another arm growing out of its head, it does, because Mike told it to run a program to form another arm and grew one out of its head. Visiting Mike's lab is a fascinating experience. Mike has been able to program, for instance, gut cells to turn into eyes. He has actually grown animals with eyes in their tails, and they can actually quite clearly, through their behavior, see behind them. So you can induce bioelectrically cells to form an eye. It then recruits other supporting cells to form that organ. Again, from a bottoms-up perspective, what Mike is doing would be impossible. We are nowhere close today to being able to just understand the hundreds of genes involved that have to be turned on and off through precise timing to form a limb. But bioelectrically, everyone sitting in this room, I think, has two symmetrical limbs, because we do have an innate biological program to do remarkable things like grow organs and grow limbs. And if you understand that bioelectric program, you can tell the body to do just that again. And in fact, one of our lead indications is in limb regeneration. That's one of the low-hanging fruit from a regulatory perspective. I wonder if I can get that video to play. What do you think? Can you get that video to play? Okay. Oh, that's a bill. That's what it was. Yes. So this is by no means the best example, but these are animals that do not naturally regenerate limbs. You can cut off their legs. You could administer then in ion channel modulator 24 hours to the surface of the stump. 24 hours of exposure to that ion modulator to kick off the program. The program runs for 18 months and regrows a functioning leg that's innervated, that the frog can swim and stand on. And this is by no means the best example. This is just one example. We're now replicating and extending this work in mice, regrowing fingertips in mice with important potential implications for amputation stump health. That is just one application of this bioelectric technology. Lastly, I will just say, going way over, and Faizan's looking at the clock going, come on. Just very briefly, so in terms of the vision moving forward is something at Morphoceuticals we call physiomics, which is understanding this bioelectric program, understanding the voltage state of a diseased, of both the healthy organism and the diseased organism. And we use something called BETSI, the bioelectric tissue stimulation engine. It is an artificial intelligence program that looks at the healthy voltage state, looks at the diseased voltage state of an animal, and predicts which ion channels need to be opened or closed to switch the disease state back to the normal state. And using BETSI, we've been able to correct otherwise catastrophic notch mutations in brain development, so we can completely normalize what's otherwise a catastrophic birth defect caused by a notch mutation by opening a single ion channel, because BETSI understood in a way that a single human could not the transition of those voltage states between the diseased and healthy ones. So we're creating BETSI 2.0, which will be able to look at a variety of different organ types and use the software of life, really the bioelectric software, the programming, to change diseased organs back to their more healthy state. Obviously, potentially fascinating implications for aging here, which I will not belabor. So with that, and just lastly, so we are closing a seed round of financing. Again, tremendous work's been done. Kudos to Juvenescence for identifying this technology out of Tufts, by the way. My eternal respect for that. Mike and David are genuinely wonderful colleagues to work on. I've helped bring just some drug development focus to the work, trying to hit some clear drug development milestones to move it forward.